Hey guys, so I'm back with another Valentine's Day card, and I've already selected some pattern papers as usual that I'm going to be using because I had to do some die cutting for this project in advance using my silhouette. So I have my background paper. It's another card with a black and white background, and I'm going to adhere it so that it covers the entire front of the card. Here you can see all of the pieces that I've die cut, including the background panel and a panel with this starburst feature. Now I used my silhouette to cut these out, but you could also do it using a manual die cutter. And my sentiment is going to come from this You Plus Me stamp set, and I'm going to be doing some heat embossing, so I made sure I put a generous layer of powder down using my powder tool. Now my Versamark stamp pad is starting to get dry, so I really made it a point to work this stamp to make sure I had good coverage on it before I stamped my image. Now that my image is stamped, I'm going to use some gold embossing powder on this image so you can actually see it against the black cardstock, and then set it using my heat tool. And one thing I did before I started this is I let my heat tool warm up, that way I didn't warp my cardstock. And then I'm going to use a 2-inch circle punch to punch this image out. Now you can see the basic design of my card starting to come together, but I didn't like the way that sentiment looked against the plain black, so I used a scrap piece of black glitter cardstock to go behind the sentiment. But before I adhere it all together, I'm going to attach some ribbon using Tombow Extreme adhesive to the back of the front panel of my card. That way it's easier for me to tie a bow onto later. Next, I pulled out my sewing machine and stitched around the edges of the card, and then finally I was able to adhere that glitter paper onto that back window, that starburst section, using some more Tombow Extreme adhesive. Now that I have all of the front panels adhered together, I'm going to go ahead and tie my bow. Now, normally I edit out all this bow tying footage because I tend to be a tire and a retire, but I left it in just so you could see the process because I have been asked several questions about tying bows. The only tips I can give is to try to keep everything as flat as possible as you're tying it so that you don't get a bunched up knot or tails going in different directions. And then once the bow has been tied, just finagle everything until it looks the way you want it to look. As you can see here, I'm doing quite a bit of tugging and pulling on this bow so that it looks the way I want it to look, or I expect it to look on the final project. So after I'm happy with how the bow looks, I'm actually going to take a glue dot and adhere it underneath the knot. This just keeps the bow from accidentally untying when it goes in and out of an envelope, or from sliding around on the front of the card. Then finally I'm going to adhere that front panel down to the rest of my card, or to the front of the card, using dimensional adhesive. I'm also going to use dimensional adhesive to adhere my sentiment to the center of my card. And then finally, I'm going to use my good scissors, or my extra sharp scissors, to clip the tails of my bow. Now here's a look at the completed project. And a list of supplies used for this card will be in the description box down below. Thanks for watching.